Hello, everyone. In this week's episode, my interviewees... Actually, why haven't I been calling them intervieweeds this whole time? Anyway, they talk about how much cannabis plays a part in their lives, and everyone interprets that question in their own way. With this topic, you really get to understand who these people are from another angle. In fact, that's going to be the case for the next 2 episodes as well. That's because these 3 episodes are all basically about how people feel about cannabis in general.
Pot is in my life as much as hand soap, and it's almost on the same level.
Pot is a pretty big deal. Currently, pot is not in my life very much.
So marijuana is a very active part of my life.
I have a drawer full of it, but I barely ever touch the stuff.
You know, I spend my time looking for it, smoking it, talking about it, sharing it. It's like definitely a major component of my current being.
Pot's a pretty significant part of my life just because it's a daily thing.
I would say like it's available and it's there whenever I want it. But as far as in my body, I can't say it's consistent.
Pot is a fairly large aspect of my life in the sense that because I do it every single day and because I go out of my way to do a sober month, I think comparably it is a fairly big aspect to my life.
Pot is a part of my life like drinking wine is a part of my life, like eating food is a part of my life, but I don't need pot to survive.
Pot has become, for me, an almost daily thing. It's not something that I think about constantly. It is something that I use medicinally. For me, it's pain medication. It's like somebody else thinks about Tylenol.
Pot was a huge part of my life when I was younger. I think there was periods of time where I went like for years and years smoking it every day. And then eventually, I think it just kind of got old, and it just became less and less important. And then eventually, I stopped for about 5 or 6 years, before I started doing it again.
Now, it's not much. Because there were times in high school, it'd be like, oh man, we don't have a bag, you know, I wish I had a bag or whatever. And there were times in college where that was never an issue because I was surrounded by it. Yeah, I kind of have a take it or leave it kind of attitude.
If I had to pick a percentage for how much pot was in my life, I would say it's probably maybe 40% of my life. I don't think it's straight half. And the only reason why I say that is because although I do smoke pot every single day, there are so many other aspects of my life that don't have to do with pot.
I would say pot is 50% of my life.
I'm going to put 100% value on it just because it's a part of the earth, it's in existence. I've never experienced a situation where pot has caused harm.
Now, obviously, I do the sober month every year, but even when I'm not in my sober month, I mean, I don't go to work stoned, and that's a huge part of my life. I don't go and see my family stoned, or there are certain things like when I go to these group meditations, I don't go stoned. So there are certain things that I go and do without being stoned.
I don't wake up out of bed and think, oh, I want to get high. So in that respect, pot is not a big deal to me because everything I do in, the daylight hours and all that kind of stuff, I don't want to be high. I do not want to be high and go to work. I don't want to be high and have to talk to my neighbor.
Pot is important to me only because, not because I feel like I need it all the time or that I couldn't use something else that relaxes me or enhances my artistic experiences. But I'm going to say it's important to me because it does exist.
Because I know that pot exists, and I know that being high exists, and I know that I love that feeling and sensation, and I know I can get to it. I always have weed. It's like coffee. And when I get a new bud, I'm like, oh, I feel, So in that respect, weed has a lot to do with what I consider my mental well-being.
Has marijuana made me who I am today? It has contributed, it's been an integral part of who I am today. There have been other contributions to my life, but has it been a basic ingredient to who I am today? The answer is yes. But I'm not going to say all of me is attributable to my relationship with marijuana.
I feel like sometimes I do kind of treat pot as like a crutch for myself to help me if I'm nervous or if, whatever reason. And it kind of covers up my feelings or my experiences sometimes, which that's, I think, a big reason why I do my sober month is to kind of get in touch with my feelings and who I am without pot.
If for some reason I couldn't smoke weed, I don't think that I would like cry or like switch to just being drunk all the time. Maybe if I was younger, I may have had a problem with that because it was definitely something that I felt like was a crutch. At one point in time, I thought that was what made me able to understand things differently. So I was really scared to not have it because I didn't want to go back to being like scared. But nowadays, it's a big part of my life. I have a hitter box in my pocket right now. I smoked 4 times yesterday. I smoked once today. It's a big part of my life, I guess. Not so much a huge important part of my life, but I mean it's in there. If you're not a family member and you know me, you equate me with that. That'd be one of the things that you would probably say. He likes to eat, he likes to play music, he likes to smoke weed, he likes to drink beer. I'm always saying goofy stuff. And so I guess it's a pretty big part of who I am, I guess.
I'm not an advocate for it. I'm very private about it. So I don't let it be a defining factor of my life publicly or how I present myself. In fact, a lot of people, even fairly recently, there have been people who've been like surprised when like we've been like that I've pulled out some pot to smoke, and they were like, "Oh, really? You didn't expect that kind of thing." So I think it's just kind of a weird mix of being this incredibly significant but very under the radar kind of a part of my life. And in terms of how I choose to live my life, I wouldn't say it controls many decisions and things like that. I think it's just in the background.
So weed is nothing, and weed is everything.
I just find this topic really interesting, and it's the same for the next two. Although I guess I've probably said that about a lot of these topics. I just love hearing what people have to say about it. It's great to get a little sneak peek into people's lives and how cannabis plays a role in it. Sometimes it's just a little bit, like how sometimes people want a glass of wine here and there. But sometimes it can be the majority of a person's identity. So that's it for this episode. If you want to contact me, my email address is whenimhighdoc, that's DOC, @gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram with the handle @whenimhighdoc. All right, so if you found this podcast interesting or educational, please share it with others. In the next episode, my subjects will talk about whether or not they appreciate cannabis. Spoiler alert, they do.